Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about jobs and more jobs. But before I get into that, I want to let you guys know that I had to take the live stream down because while I was live streaming, there was way too many children in that video to leave it up. Something about, having kids in videos is probably not good. So if you guys are wondering where that video went, because so many of you came to watch me, I just decided that it just wasn't worth it. YouTube is very strict with the rules, and you're allowed to film in public. I just didn't feel comfortable having that many people up on the channel who didn't consent to being recorded, even though you're allowed to record in public. But after that, I called Mello while I was actually leaving the park, or she texted me in the last few seconds of doing the video, or the live stream, I guess. And I asked her if she was ready to go, and she was like, "Okay, let's go." So of course we always do random things, and so we went to go find something to eat. Neither of us wanted to eat at IHOP or Denny's again because it's expensive to eat at those places. Every time we go out to eat, it's $50, regardless of where we go or how little we get. Like one of the first times we went out to eat slices of pizza. We didn't go out to eat a pizza. We had slices of pizza and a few wings, and that meal cost $50. So I know a lot of people in the comments this morning on the live stream were asking about cheap dates. There really isn't a way of going out without spending a lot of money. And that was something that I came to the conclusion a long time ago. But one of the main topics that we discussed while we were eating was how hard it is to find a good job, because she's been looking for a job now ever since she left her retail job. Even though her current job is better than her old job, it's a lot of work for the amount of money that she's getting paid. So she's been looking for a job, and I finally brushed up my resume about 2 weekends ago. And I have been on Indeed looking for work now, and I can't find a job that pays nearly as much as I currently make. So neither of us has been very successful. And after we were done eating, I came over to show her my camera and at my house, and then we started talking about my channel, and we looked up what you find online when you look up Millennial Steam. Because up until I'd say about 10 days ago, if you looked up my channel name, nothing came up except for a couple of videos of other people who made videos about my channel. And this is not after I got demonetized. This was before that. And there's a guy named Josh Piper who we started watching his video because he came up. And he's made a couple of videos about my channel, which I think is fascinating. Even though he doesn't talk about me in the best of light, it still is, to me, it feels odd that there are other YouTube channels talking about this YouTube channel, because I never considered myself to be a standout person. But without further ado, and I know I always say that, I need to create a timestamp here because I'm going to add music so that you guys know when the monologue stops and the actual video starts. So right now, I am transitioning into my talking points from the video that I watched from this guy talking about me. So in the video, he's talking about the things that I talk about, how difficult it is, even with college, to get a halfway decent job. And here we go. The overwhelming competition in online job applications. Many jobs are filled before they're even posted, often through internal hires or personal connections. We've all been there. I remember, this was years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I was looking for jobs at the university, and they already had internal candidates. They just had to post the jobs on the outside so that HR would let them sign off, because there are certain check boxes that you have to you have to meet the criteria for your candidate to be chosen. You have to show that you tried to find someone else that was an internal to meet a requirement I don't know if that's a state requirement or a government requirement or what kind of requirement it is. Maybe it's just a university, but they require you to interview at least two other people outside of your organization. Those people aren't going to get the job because you hire people that you like. You don't know those other people. So it's like hiring the person that you already know as opposed to getting a roommate off of Craigslist that's going to eat your food. You don't want to do that. So this personal connections thing is something that kept coming up in this video about me and how important I say it is in order to find a good job, because good jobs aren't sitting on Indeed, at least not the overwhelming amount of the jobs that are there. The jobs on Indeed are typically dead end jobs. They're jobs for people who are severely desperate. But the good jobs, they are not going to be posted there because, again, you want to hire people that already have a proven reputation. And if you can't find those people within your organization or you don't have a friend who's looking for a job, sure, you're going to hire someone from Indeed, but it's going to be a revolving door. Like my current position for my Gen Z, I don't think it's going to be very long before he's going to start realizing that this isn't where he wants to be. There's no future in it. He can't afford to pay his bills, and the benefits are lackluster. I just found out, I was just at the Kroger's pharmacy, and they told me that my medical insurance right now only covers my medication every 90 days, but I have to take it every day. So when they pay for my medication, that means that every 2 times that I have to get my medication, I have to pay full price because my medical insurance will not cover it. That is bad medical insurance. And it comes along with a bad job. Is that bad jobs have bad benefits. They have low amounts of time off, and they're not jobs that are increasing pay to meet inflation. They're jobs who don't care about the people that they hire because they're not invested. When you hire someone for less than $20 an hour in this current economy, what you're saying is you're going to have a second or third job. All right, moving on to our next little paragraph here. Most resumes are initially filtered by software that can scan for specific words. And, and this happened to me. I was actually contacted by HR at ASU telling me that I was cheating by submitting resumes with the exact terms for their job listings. I was told that I'm not supposed to do that because it makes me qualified for every single job that I applied for. But if I submit a generic resume, then I'm not going to get calls back. So they consider it to be deceitful. And that's exactly the conversation I had to have with HR and the hiring manager. That because I was submitting so many different resumes, that I was getting job interviews all the time and then not getting hired anyway. And that really was what blew me away about this process. It's like they want you to apply with a resume that's your current resume that's going to guarantee that you don't get a job interview because you don't have the key words that they're looking for to even get the resume past the applicant tracking system. All large companies use this. It's a system in which the applicant tracking system gets all the emails that are sent in by people looking for that one job. And remember, when you apply to a site like Indeed, which does make it easy to apply with a generic resume, you might as well take your resume and put it into the metaphorical shredder. Because the chances of that resume making it through as a generic resume to a human being are next to none. That's why in the media you hear about people who can submit 500 resumes and maybe get less than a handful of interviews. And out of those interviews, your likelihood of getting one job is next to none. Because remember what I've said on this channel for many years, at least the last 5 years. I've submitted thousands of resumes in my life. I have received double digit callbacks or emails back from those thousands of resumes that I've sent back. And I've received single digit jobs. And these aren't the good jobs. I'm not talking about my applying at Kroger's or applying at Walmart or applying at Taco Bell, all your entry level jobs. I'm talking about jobs with salaries. These jobs don't want you. When they look at your background and they see how much retail work or how much minimum wage work you have, they're going to shy away from resumes that look like that. In fact, my Gen Z right now has nothing but warehouse, food, and retail in his background. I don't know how he got this job or why he was hired for this job because he's not qualified, obviously. And that's been the exact same thing that my last four have had. They're completely unqualified. Somehow, the desperation to fill the position causes corporations to fill crappy jobs with even crappier people. And then, of course, comes that realization, oh my God, we made another bad hire. In fact, they just fired a person in sales, I think last Friday, that they had been trying to get rid of for the past 6 months. They just couldn't get rid of this person because sometimes it's so hard to fill positions that HR, even if you submit that you've had disciplinary problems with this person, the person has enough problems that they should be terminated, that HR says you can't fire them, you have to retrain them. And then you're stuck with them until you finally get to the point where HR gets tired of hearing about management complaining about workers, and then they finally do something. But I mean, my last Gen Z showed up to work and just slept all day. What can you do? If HR says you can't do anything, you can't do anything. That's just like with hygiene problems. You are not allowed to talk to workers about hygiene problems. And oh my gosh, I went to go pick up my medication because I got a text message earlier today. And I was walking back to the pharmacy and I passed, I would say a mildly attractive woman with a sub zero Neanderthal looking guy. And she just looked at me and he gave me that stare. It's like, don't look at my woman kind of look. And I just kind of took aback by the stare he gave me. Well, I was coming back to the register to buy some water. And she was standing next to him, like, like touching his clothes or something. I was standing 10 feet back and I could smell armpits. And I was like, Jesus Christ, she's standing right next to him and she can't tell him to take a shower. Anyhow, that happened today. I know it's off topic, but this channel's designed to be funny. By the way, for all of you people in the comment section who think this is a serious channel, it is not a serious channel. My comedy, I would call it, is dystopian entertainment. In fact, today I was inside of Target because Mello wanted to get something from the electronics department, and we were talking about the channel. And the cashier looks at Mello, and she says, she asked me first because I introduced myself as a YouTuber, and then I tell her, because she asked, "What's the channel about?" And I just said dystopian entertainment, and she looks at Mello and she's like, I don't know what that is. And Mello tried to explain it to her, but it would be kind of condescending to, to explain to them what dystopian entertainment is when she embodies your stereotypical minimum wage person who's not going anywhere in life. Anyhow, back on topic. Let's get back on task here. All right, moving on to our next talking point. Recruiters overwhelmed with applications often spend less than 10 seconds on each resume. When you're going to get thousands of jobs that are going to first be weeded out by the applicant tracking system, and then it spits out all the regular garbage. Whoever put the most keywords into their resume is going to be put in front of a human being for less than 10 seconds on each resume. Out of all the garbage that gets dumped in their in their system, we have, I forget what it's called, like talent manager or something really generic like that, that my corporation uses in order to look at resumes. It's going to be in front of their face for 10 seconds. So they might get 100 resumes that all have the right keywords, and then they get in front of a human being and they've got to pick 4 to 5. Out of those 4 to 5, they're going to interview 3. Think about what your chances are for actually getting a good job. Think about how much competition is out there in order to get a crummy job. It's almost as if they don't want you to get a job. And I've said this so many times that I'm going to turn blue in the face in saying it. It is possible to go through your entire life and never get a job because there are so many people. They're not as desperate in the more elite jobs, but at the bottom, they get to a point, especially like at my company, where the sales positions, they're such a transient position that they're just constant. It's a mill of people just constantly coming in and failing out, coming in and failing out. Why? Because you can't meet the sales quota if no one's buying your product. And so you get the same crummy people that come in and out. And for the slightly higher tier jobs, I'm talking $25 to $50 an hour jobs, these recruiters are trying to meet those goals because recruiting typically gets paid on retention. You get a bonus at 3 months, 6 months, and a year. If you can't keep people in the job for 3 months, you're not getting bonuses, meaning your paycheck is going to continually go down. Even if you're hiring 50 to 100 people every quarter, your paycheck is going to be diminished if you're hiring extremely low candidates. So it behooves you to spend that one extra second to make sure that the 3 people that you're going to interview are worth interviewing. Sometimes you do the interviews and you just have to pick the one that stinks less. All right, moving on to my next talking point. The most effective way to land a job is often through personal connections, referrals, or direct contact with hiring managers. Online applications don't really lead anywhere. If you're Johnny Sixpack at the top of the resume, you have the keywords in there, but you're not getting picked. You know, I spent 2 years looking for my current job during COVID, and I kept seeing my current job posted over and over and over again. This meant that they couldn't find someone desperate enough to do 5 jobs for the price of the minimum wage. So they kept hiring, and then they were disappointed in the applicant, or the applicant realized very quickly that they don't want to be here. Just like my Gen Z, it didn't take him long to realize that this job was a cage. There was no position above him, there was no position beneath him. It was just going to be exploited until they've had enough. And with the attitude that I've been getting from Gen Z, I think he's already reached that point of getting to a negative attitude in the workplace because you don't see yourself growing with the company. In fact, something a person said in my live stream this morning is that even when you have the crummiest job in the world, and I'm going to use Walmart as an example, even at Walmart, they wanted to know how the employees felt about their current position. Every, I believe, 3 months, there was a loyalty check. And every 3 months, you had to say about how you saw yourself working at Walmart in a higher tier position, right? Every single time we had to have these interviews with the general manager, he would say the same thing to every single person who worked at that company. Oh, I see myself growing and working in the corporate office. So you know what? I just kept saying the same thing. Even though I had no intention of ever staying there for very long, I was always looking for another job. It just took me years to find another job because once you're working in retail and you have an unpredictable schedule, whether you're opening, closing, 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 opening, from week to week, They don't tell you what your days off are normally going to be. So you could have like a Sunday and a Wednesday, or you could have like a Tuesday, Wednesday. Typically, they don't want you off on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday when you work in retail because that's their busiest days. So you're kind of stuck in the job because you can't really schedule interviews for the following week. And if management finds out that you're looking for another job, I've seen them let people go because they had to change their availability. At Kroger's, they would remind you that you put in your application with open availability. Anyone who's looking for a crappy desperation job right now or at any time, if your availability isn't open, you're going to get 1 or 2 shifts a week. It's a way of punishing you, or they won't hire you initially. If you change from open availability to restricted, they punish you, and it's a way of letting you know that you need to move on. They don't want to fire you because they don't want to pay you unemployment, but it's a sure way of letting you know that they don't want you there anymore. And there were so many underhanded ways that corporations do that to workers, where it's like, if you can't work the hours that we tell you to work, then you can't work here. In fact, I was talking about this with Mello this morning, is that when I worked again at Walmart, if the freight that came off the truck in the morning wasn't put away by the time your shift was over, it was expected of you to stay late and work on putting that stuff onto the shelf. And any person who didn't stay late would be put on the naughty list. And that meant that you got less hours, less days, and you were seen as a non-team player. I don't know how many times I've been called a non-team player working in my entire life. But even when my last senior manager got hired on, and within a couple of months, they knew he wasn't going to work out. But again, they had to get HR's approval in order to give him the boot. And that still took, from the moment they found out that it wasn't going to work out for him, it still took them another year to get rid of him. All right, do I have enough time for my final talking point? No. All right. So instead, I'm going to talk about toxic positivity in the last couple of minutes because I just got off the phone with a person that's finishing up the semester, is preparing to go to grad school. And we were talking about this. We were talking about the channel. And I was telling her that in this world that we currently live in, you need to create a job because hourly work leads nowhere. Hourly work, Indeed jobs, anything paying under $20 an hour is only going to lead you to a desperation job. And while we were talking, we came to the conclusion that the corporations can't pay you too much or else you won't come back. And she said she had this conversation with her father where she said that if the proletariat is paid too much, why would they come back and work? Once you make too much money, which I would be considered a family wage in this world because that is so backwards and so evil, that once you make too much money and you can relax, then you might not come back to a job that is making you miserable. Why would you come back? If you had money, why would you work a desperation job? And that's this fine line that all corporations have to walk because they can't pay too much or else the worker might have too much money, but they can't pay too little or else your workers are all starving. So they have to find some sort of middle ground where they give you just enough money to pay your rent, just enough money to buy food, but not a penny more. That's why we're all stuck in this weird job market right now because that's how far they're willing to push us, is that they want workers at the most desperate level down there. Now, these rules, of course, don't apply to their executives or their actual employees that they like, but every person at the bottom is subjected to this. And there's no way to fight a system unless we all come together at once and say we won't work for slave wages. Nothing will change because there's no reason for the system to change. The system is working for the people that created it, and it's doing very well. Because rich people will tell you the economy is booming. But down here, where we're at, we don't see anything but getting on the hamster wheel and giving it all you've got in order to just have a bucket of fish heads at the end of the week.